Before I married into the Eastern Palace, I knew the Crown Prince had a woman who understood his heart. She was a master of the arts and letters, well-versed even in military strategy, yet she was content to be his personal handmaiden. On my wedding night, which should have been a celebration of our union, the Crown Prince took her hand, and they spent the entire night on the palace roof, gazing at the moon. I did not cry or create a scene. I fulfilled my duties as Crown Princess with perfect composure. I orchestrated their escape, watching them abandon an empire to wander the world together. I loved power and wealth. Whether I had a husband or not was of little consequence to me. But in the end, it was the Crown Prince who came to regret everything. I was born into House Valerius. Both my great-aunt and my aunt had been empresses. As the eldest daughter of my generation, it was my destiny to marry into the Eastern Palace and become the Crown Princess. The great houses were a tangled web of alliances, and once a daughter came of age, her marriage was a strategic move to fortify her family's standing. From a young age I understood that for a woman, love was a gamble. If she found a worthy man, she might find happiness. If not, her entire life would be wasted. My aunt once told me of another great aunt who was originally destined for the Eastern Palace, but she fell in love with a penniless scholar, and in defiance of her family, chose to live a life with him. In the end, the scholar abandoned her, and she returned to House Valerius, pregnant and alone. A daughter of a noble house, her heart and body betrayed by a commoner. She lost all hope, and when her younger sister married into the Eastern Palace and received the glory that should have been hers, the disparity was too much to bear. She took vows and spent her days with prayer and candlelight. Love is the most ephemeral of things, my aunt told me. It is the wealth you can hold in your hand that truly matters. Even my own mother, who had grown up with my father, once confessed to me in secret, "If your father were not of House Valerius, I would never have married him." The year I came of age, the imperial decree for my marriage arrived at our estate. I prepared for the wedding calmly while my younger sisters chattered around me. Aunt's eldest sister enters the Eastern Palace. She will be the Crown Princess. How magnificent! The only imperfection is that the Empress, our aunt, injured herself saving the Emperor years ago and could not bear children. The Crown Prince is not her own son, but he respects her deeply, so he will surely cherish a daughter of House Valerius. My tomboyish third sister, however, pouted. "I feel sorry for her. I heard that when Lord Devereux's family was ruined years ago, it was the Crown Prince who saved their daughter. He found a way to bring her from the servants' quarters to the Eastern Palace to be his personal handmaiden." A sudden silence fell over the room. Everyone exchanged glances, then looked at me. I simply smiled. It matters not. I have long known he has a cherished confidante by his side. Sister, does it not bother you at all? I gazed toward the imposing silhouette of the imperial city. What I, Seraphina, desire is power and the enduring prosperity of House Valerius. Since he has given his love to another woman, I added, then power shall be all mine. On the day of the wedding, I knelt beside Crown Prince Arthur to honor heaven and earth. When it was time for the bride and groom to bow to each other, he refused to lower his head. Instead, his eyes were fixed on Isabel Devereux, who stood not far away. An attendant from the Ministry of Rites had to whisper a reminder. Only then did Arthur reluctantly complete the bow. I sat in the main hall of the Eastern Palace, while my governess, Matron Iris, sighed. Just now His Highness was staring at that Miss Devereux the entire time. I saw it myself, and her eyes were red, filled with tears. My handmaiden, Lily, chimed in. It is true. Causing such a scene at someone else's wedding, we all saw the look of heartache on the prince's face. In the bridal chamber, the dragon and phoenix candles flickered. I dismissed the servants. In the silent room, I could hear the soft hiss of the wicks. I pulled off my veil, removed the heavy phoenix crown, and pushed open the window. There they were, on the roof of the main palace hall, the prince with his arm around Isabel, gazing at the moon. Under that full, bright moon, any flicker of a childhood crush I might have once had Any lingering fantasy about him vanished in an instant. It was as if a basin of ice water had been poured over me, leaving me utterly clear-headed. I was even grateful that he had not tried to feign affection from the start. Aunt's love and sentiment were purged, with only my family's honor and my own future in my heart. I could go much further. I knew I was an intruder between him and Isabel. I also understood that, for a woman with nothing, the prince was her only shield. But born into a great house, my marriage was not mine to choose. My only option was to use this marriage as a ladder to the heavens, to obtain everything I wanted. Beneath the luminous moon, I could almost hear their whispered endearments. In my chamber, the red candles swayed, illuminating my wedding robes and the crown set aside. My heart felt as cold as the setting moon. But after the moon sets, the dawn will soon break. I would not be the moon of sentimental poems, witness to lovers' trysts. I would be the phoenix that rides the rising sun. Even if I was alone, I would be dazzling. Even if the journey burned me, I would embrace it. I watched their silhouettes. Serafina, I whispered to myself, allow yourself this one night, just a few moments, to be sad. To be the master of one's destiny, one must be ruthless. If you pity another woman, then hand her the man she desires. Let them be grateful to you for it. A single tear fell onto my hand, and then my sorrow was gone. Arthur and Isabel watched the moon all night. The story spread through the palace like wildfire. The Empress summoned Isabel for questioning. This finally stirred Arthur to action. He came to find me. His eyes blazed with anger. Serafina, I have no feelings for you. We have been married but a single day. And already you run to your aunt to complain about Isabel. You are truly vicious. Isabel is frail. If anything happens to her, I will make you pay. I calmly secured a gold pin in my hair, then turned to meet his gaze. If I were not the one who reported it, would your highness have come to apologize to me? He seemed taken aback by my response and stammered, preposterous. I am the crown prince. Why should I apologize to you? I gave Matron Iris a subtle look. She understood immediately and brought in several of Isabel's close maids. Lily spoke up. No one from this hall has left the Eastern Palace today. Matron Iris and I have not left the Crown Princess's side for a moment. However, I did see the few of you sneaking out earlier. Were you not chattering outside the Empress's palace, making sure she overheard? The maids were easily frightened. They remained silent, but their panic was obvious. Arthur still defended Isabel. Isabel is too gentle and kind to do such a thing. I let out a short, sharp laugh, and now His Highness has stormed in here to condemn me, his heart aching even more for her. Has she not achieved her goal? Matron Iris added. Their nervous behavior is highly suspicious. They have sown discord between the Crown Princess and His Highness. They should be sent to the laundry service as punishment. At that, the maids burst into tears. It was Lady Isabel who told us to spread the story in the palace corridors. She said it was the only way for the Empress to punish her, so that the blame would not fall on His Highness. I fought the urge to roll my eyes. Arthur was stunned. Why would Isabel be so foolish? He turned to leave, but I stopped him. Your Highness, you have not yet apologized to me. I was wrong there. Are you satisfied? I watched him dash away, and could only think how absurd it all was. The future ruler of a nation, so besotted with a woman that he could not see reason. Sooner or later, someone would bring him down. And if someone was going to do it, it might as well be me. As I walked through the palace corridors, servants glanced at me trying to gauge my mood. When I reached the Empress's palace, Arthur was standing in the courtyard with Isabel, sharing her punishment. Under the blazing sun, Isabel's face was pale. Arthur's expression, however, was resolute. They truly looked like a pair of tragic, devoted lovers. When she saw me, Isabel lowered her head, looking uncomfortable. I addressed Arthur. Your Highness, as newlyweds, we should serve tea to the Emperor and Empress together. Isabel whispered. Your Highness, you should go. Do not anger their majesties on my account. My aunt the Empress sat on her phoenix throne. Seeing my complete lack of emotion, she seemed relieved. The Emperor stayed only briefly before taking Arthur to the southern study to discuss matters of state. Alone with my aunt, I looked out at Isabel in the courtyard. "You are remarkably composed," my aunt said. "She desires the prince's pity. I desire power." My aunt smiled. "I thought you might be heartbroken for a few days. Aunt, do you not think that a man who has lost his sense of duty, a man willing to defy you and the Emperor for a woman, is a dangerous choice to entrust with an empire?" My aunt understood my meaning. "Serafina, you are clever. If there are things you cannot bring yourself to do, I can do them for you. Aunt, please let her go, and do not be too harsh on her in the future. Everything she does is for self-preservation. I have no wish to be her enemy. Though our schemes must inevitably clash, it is better to maintain a facade of dignity, lest others think Serafina Valerius is a weakling who can only run to others with her complaints." When I left the Empress's palace, Isabel was following silently behind me. She suddenly rushed forward. "Crown Princess, if I were not the daughter of a disgraced minister, if I had not been saved by the prince, perhaps the roles we play today would be reversed." I felt no anger. I simply reached out and tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "Isabel, don't try to provoke me. You should know that taunts are useless against someone who does not care for the object in question. Also," I added, "I know the prince is watching from nearby. Save your little tricks for him." I turned to leave. She threw herself in front of me. "Crown Princess, I was wrong." I immediately stepped back, then turned and fled. Isabel was left standing there, utterly bewildered. Around the corner, I found Arthur, his face livid. "She was apologizing to you. Why did you run?" "I was afraid she might have a fit," I said calmly. "Perhaps bash her head against a wall, and then you, in your distress, would once again blame your innocent wife." Arthur was speechless. I curtsied and made my swift exit. Matron Iris grumbled. "The crown princess would be well within her rights to punish that girl. Is a mere servant to climb over the head of her mistress?" I toyed with a small vase. "A vase has its purpose. Filled with flowers, it is pleasing to the eye. I will not waste my time tormenting a handmaiden. After all, she is not yet powerful enough to threaten my position." In the courtyard, Arthur carried a swooning Isabel through the main gate, a retinue of servants trailing behind them. Through the window, I watched him frantically call for the imperial physicians. Standing for hours under the hot sun was a sure way to win his sympathy. It was a risky move, but without it, her suffering would have been for nothing. In the world of courtly favor, there is no weapon more potent than a man's pity. But that was a weapon that had no effect on me. "Matron Iris," I commanded, "go to the palaces of the Empress and the Empress Dowager and request their senior matrons to come here at once. They are to supervise the physicians as they treat Isabel. Every prescription, every dose of medicine, must be witnessed. Furthermore, inform all servants and guards of this hall that they are to remain on duty outside. Any movement to other parts of the Eastern Palace must be logged with the head eunuch. I will not be framed for something I did not do. I have no interest in her games." Matron Iris nodded. Dark clouds gathered, and a torrential rain began to fall. In Isabel's hall, a window blew open. Arthur was holding her, feeding her medicine. Her cold eyes met mine through the window. Rain hammered the water cisterns in the courtyard, making the lotus flowers tremble. A perfect white lotus. Indeed, I leaned against my own window, perfectly content, reading a book, sipping tea, and occasionally eating a piece of fruit. The sound of the rain was soothing, and across the way, a drama was being performed, just for me. It was all very pleasant. But as I was enjoying myself, Arthur happened to look out and see me. His expression was a mixture of confusion and annoyance. Finally, his compassion reached its peak, and he announced his intention to make Isabel his official consort. He searched my face for any sign of anger but found only 7/10 mockery. Everyone in the Eastern Palace expected me to be furious, to finally challenge Isabel. An air of tension filled the palace walls. Arthur began to watch me warily. but he found I did nothing out of line. I do not harm women, especially not women who can only survive by clinging to men. When Isabel was officially named a consort of the Eastern Palace, I knew she would be the catalyst for a long struggle, but the drama I intended to stage was not a fight for Arthur's affection. It was to give him to her, completely. I wanted their love to be so profound that they would grow weary of the palace and long for the simple life of common folk they so admired. I wanted him to become a common swallow, never again to be a dragon of the imperial city. But first, I had to bear the future heir to this dynasty. I would keep the son and discard the father. I had no desire to be an empress fighting for favor in a harem for the rest of my life. My goal was to be the regent empress dowager, ruling from behind the curtain. I wanted a future where the daughters of House Valerius would not be sacrificed in political marriages. A future where my house would not rely on its women for its glory. I admit, I was supremely arrogant and supremely selfish. When I first heard the story of my great-aunt who became a nun, I did not pity her for her lost love. I pitied her, and all the women of my house, for their lack of choice. If I, Seraphina, could one day rise to the zenith of power, I would ensure that House Valerius never again needed to use its daughters as bargaining chips. My house would be the strongest, its men and women free to choose their own paths. And to achieve that, I had to climb to the very top on the day of consort Isabel's investiture. Arthur and I sat in the main hall. He looked with aching tenderness as the woman he had long adored knelt to serve me tea. He was terrified I would throw the hot tea in her face. Instead, I drank it slowly and presented her with lavish gifts. My polite but empty smile left Arthur utterly baffled. As he took her hand, when everyone expected me to be seething with jealousy, I simply said, "Congratulations to the Crown Prince on gaining such a treasure." His eyes were filled with disbelief. "I will not let your life as Crown Princess be a difficult one." My eyes curved into a smile. "I remember seeing your highness once when I was very young. You were being chased by a wild beast. It was I who shot an arrow through its head and saved you. I thought you might remember, but it seems you have forgotten." He was taken aback. "I have wronged you," he admitted. "If there is anything you desire, I will grant it. But Isabel is innocent. You are now the mistress of this palace. I hope you will not be cruel to her." I smiled. "Your Highness seems very afraid that I will harm Isabel." "That is not what I mean." I stepped closer and tugged his sleeve. "I am the eldest daughter of my house. I helped raise my younger sisters. I know your Highness does not care for me, and we will never truly know each other. But as Crown Princess, I must think of the royal family. If your Highness allows me to bear the heir, I will not harbor any improper thoughts." "What improper thoughts?" I bit my lip and lowered my head. "For instance, the hope of winning your Highness's heart and love." His ears turned red. He stood up abruptly. As he strode away, I murmured to myself, "In a world where the strong devour the weak, do not blame me for being cunning. If one does not fight for oneself, heaven and earth will conspire for one's destruction." Isabel's history was not hard to uncover. What I had not expected was that someone else, besides the prince, held a soft spot for her. The youngest commander of the Imperial Guard, Gideon Thorne, often helped her. It was he who had first begged the prince to get her out of the servants' quarters. As I bathed, Lily reported her findings. House Thorne and House Devereux were old family friends. Gideon and Isabel were even betrothed at one point. After House Devereux fell, Gideon knelt in his family's courtyard, begging his father to intervene. I scoffed. House Devereux was guilty of treason. Isabel's father embezzled funds meant for the front lines and delayed supply shipments, causing tens of thousands of soldiers to starve to death. For her to have both the Crown Prince and an Imperial Guard commander protecting her after that, it is truly interesting. Lily's face was contorted with hatred. My own brother died in that battle at the pass. If not for those Devereux scum, he would still be alive. And that Isabel seems just as selfish. Now that she has the prince, she will surely try to climb even higher. Later that evening, as I was reading by the window, I sensed someone lurking outside. I held my breath, then vaulted over the sill. A man in black leapt onto the roof. Lily tossed me my sword, and I pursued him across the rooftops. He kept glancing back. I threw a poisoned silver needle which struck him in the back. The toxin took effect, and he tumbled to the ground. Matron Iris had already summoned the palace guards. They arrived to see I had already captured the intruder. Your Highness, you should not have acted yourself. Allow us to unmask him. I planted my foot on the man's chest and used my sword to flip off his mask. What a coincidence. Commander Thorne, I said coolly. Can you explain why you are skulking outside my chambers in the middle of the night, dressed as an assassin? Have I, the Crown Princess, committed some crime that requires your personal investigation? Gideon turned his head away. The guards were at a loss. Arthur and Isabel arrived, hand in hand. He saw me with my sword and demanded, Seraphina, what is the meaning of this? I was reading when I noticed a prowler. I gave chase myself. I did not expect it to be the commander. The color drained from Isabel's face. She threw herself to her knees. I beg the Crown Princess to spare the commander's life. Arthur frowned. I laughed. Consort Isabel, a man was found sneaking around the palace. This man is the commander of the Imperial Guard. Whether he lives or dies, and what secrets can be extracted from him, are no longer matters for me to decide. Or is it that in the consort's heart, the commander's life is more important than the safety of others? Tears streamed down her face. She tugged at Arthur's sleeve. Your Highness, please say something, Arthur said. Report this to the Emperor, imprison him for now. His eyes, however, lingered on my sword with a flash of admiration. I had no idea the Crown Princess was so skilled in combat, to be able to capture the finest warrior in the Empire. I shook my head. I used a poisoned dart. I am a woman, not a gentleman bound by codes of honor. There is nothing wrong with using such methods for self-defense. I walked past them and returned to my chambers. Matron Iris looked nervous. Could it be that Consort Isabel sent him? We will know tomorrow after he is questioned. A cold sweat broke out on her brow. My lady, if she wants you dead, will you still hold to your principle of not harming her? Just then, Arthur entered my chambers. He looked at me. You were frightened tonight. I will stay with you. The one who was frightened was not me but Isabel, I said calmly. I hear Commander Thorne and she grew up together. She must be heartbroken. Your Highness should go and comfort her. He struggled to speak. This matter can we not let it go. Tomorrow, I will tell my father that I asked the commander to help watch over the palace. Does that require him to dress as an assassin? Seraphina, consider it a debt I owe you. Let this matter end here. My face hardened into a sneer. Your Highness, if I had been killed tonight, would you also ask that the matter be dropped? But you are unharmed. I have studied martial arts since I was a child for self-defense and to protect others. If I were a helpless woman assassinated in the dark, would you find that acceptable, Your Highness? Or are you simply afraid of implicating Consort Isabel? He looked deeply uncomfortable. I continued. Let me guess. She came to you in tears telling you she had merely complained about how difficult her life was in the palace, and her dear childhood friend decided to take matters into his own hands. Is that it? A few of Isabel's tears are worth more in Your Highness's heart than Seraphina's life. He grew flustered. That is not what I mean. Seraphina, do not say such things. You are my crown princess. How could I treat you so poorly? Suddenly, my eyes welled with tears. But you have said it, Your Highness, and words once spoken cannot be taken back. I have fulfilled my duties and never once harmed your beloved. Now someone has tried to harm me, and I find that my life is worth so little. He had never seen me cry. He fumbled to wipe away my tears. I thought you were strong, that you would not cry. Please, don't cry. Pretend I never said those things. Arthur stayed in my chambers that night. He slept on the couch by the window. I knew he did not sleep a wink. A small crack had finally appeared in his heart for me. At dawn, Gideon Thorne was stripped of his rank. Even under torture, he refused to give a reason for his actions. A fool. When I visited him in the dungeons, he was covered in blood, but his eyes were defiant. Gideon Thorne, you dare to covet the Crown Prince's woman. You are bold indeed. He glared at me. You had a promising future, I said, and you threw it all away for a woman. Do you truly have no regrets? His voice was hoarse. What do you know? A vicious woman like you who only knows how to steal what belongs to others is not fit to be compared to her. And you are no better, Commander, lusting after the prince's woman like a rat in the gutter. I had no time to waste. I will spare your life today. Remember that it is my generosity, not my fear of you, that allows you to live. Leaving the prison, Lily was confused. It would have been so satisfying to see him executed. I saw Arthur's carriage waiting nearby. I want Arthur to live with a permanent sense of debt to me, I said softly. Besides, if he and Isabel ever leave the palace, Gideon will no longer be constrained by Arthur's title. Lily's eyes lit up. My lady, you truly think 3 steps ahead. Arthur was standing by his carriage. Isabel looked nervous. I curtsied, then said meekly, I have spoken to the Emperor and begged him to spare the commander's life. Before Arthur could respond, I brushed past him and entered my own carriage. He let go of Isabel's hand and rushed to my side. I never thought your life was worthless, Serafina. I will remember this kindness, and Isabel will be grateful as well. Our eyes met. My gaze was steady and sincere. I did this only to ease your highness's mind, not to grant a favor to others. I closed the carriage curtain, leaving him standing there in a daze. Lily peeked through the curtain. His highness is still standing there, not moving. Send a message home. Have my mother send the finest fertility tonics to the palace. As expected, Arthur felt he owed me. He spent several nights in my chambers. I suppressed my revulsion and catered to his every need. Even when Isabel played mournful melodies on her zither in her own hall, he did not waver. But sometimes, he would stand by the window, lost in thought. Your Highness is the Crown Prince, I said gently one day. Yet you cannot make the woman you love your official wife. It must be very painful. Go and see her. He could no longer suppress his yearning. The Emperor and Empress were pressuring him, and he was pressuring himself. His guilt towards Isabel could only grow. A short time later, the imperial physician confirmed I was with child. I breathed a sigh of relief. Isabel grew quieter, more withdrawn. The news of my pregnancy was like a knife twisting in her heart. When she came to pay her respects, her face was paler than ever. One day, I dismissed my attendants. Isabel, I asked, do you want to live a life of your own with Arthur? She looked at me suspiciously. I do not understand what the Crown Princess means. You were right. You were once a noble woman. If not for your family's fall, perhaps the Eastern Palace would be different today. But more women will come. Even if he becomes emperor, his life will be constrained. Are you truly willing to share the man you love with others? Her eyes reddened. Of course I wish to live our own life, but he is the Crown Prince. What can I do? I met her gaze. Isabel, you are clever. You know how to use a man's guilt. Otherwise, you would never have made it this far. You were once a celebrated talent in the capital, skilled in arts and letters, even strategy. You must understand that you cannot have both the fish and the bear's paw. The Crown Princess means that I should leave the palace with His Highness? I did not answer, but her eyes shone with a new light. Why? Because we were never truly enemies. We are both women whose fates are not our own to control, but one must always choose. From that day on, Isabel's health declined rapidly. She grew thinner, and her gaze was filled with a mixture of calculation and confusion. The more Arthur doted on her, the more at ease I became. He would occasionally visit my chambers. As my belly grew, the lines on his brow deepened. He was always frowning, staring into the distance. Serafina, he would say, with increasing frequency, life in this palace is so dull. I in turn reported to my aunt that the Eastern Palace required more consorts, as 2 was not enough. The emperor, who had only Arthur as a son, was anxious about the succession, seeing me so magnanimous, even while pregnant. He showered me with more gifts. The court and the capital praised the women of House Valerius as being born to be empresses, selfless and wise. Only I knew that the faint affection I once held for him had died on our wedding night. When you do not care, you cannot be jealous. When Isabel heard that new consorts were to be chosen, her health worsened. She dragged her frail body to see me. "Seraphina, do you truly have no desire to fight me for Arthur?" I stroked my belly and shook my head. "I already have what I wanted." Her voice was laced with contempt. "All you wanted was a child?" I remained silent. She laughed, a bitter, self-mocking sound. "I admit, I am on the verge of madness. If it were just you and me, it would be tolerable. But more women. What if they have his children? I think I would go mad. He promised me it would be just the two of us. He promised." I glanced at her. "His Highness has been speaking to me more often lately. He says the palace is dull. Isabel, no one in this palace can give you what you want. Only you can do that for yourself." Before she left, she seemed to have made a decision. "Seraphina, I thought that when you became crown princess, you would try to destroy me. But you have done nothing. I told you, we are not enemies. We are just two people who cannot control our own destinies. Whether you are born into a great house or born a prince, there are always things you cannot have." After she left, Arthur spent every day with her. There were 3 months until my child was due. My aunt deliberately postponed the selection of new consorts for 3 months. It was enough time, enough for me to be the serene crown princess, watching them grow more weary of the palace with each passing day. My hands would remain clean as I watched them walk into the perfect ending I had designed for them. Isabel told me that Arthur was considering taking her away from the palace. His resolve was not yet firm. I had my father instruct his protégés in the court to submit memorials, declaring that as a traitor's daughter, Isabel should be stripped of her rank. How could the daughters of noble houses share a palace with the child of a criminal? The court was roiled with undercurrents. Isabel was already frail. I gave her a prescription for a medicine that would induce weakness and sweating. She drank it daily, and her health deteriorated further. Arthur finally made his decision. He would take Isabel and leave the imperial city. Their plan was to fake their deaths in a fire on the night of my delivery, when the palace would be in chaos. Arthur never knew that he was walking into a trap set by Isabel and me. As my body grew heavy, he would look at my belly with guilt. "Seraphina, you will be a good mother. Our child will be a fine and noble person. The physicians say it will be a boy." I stroked my stomach. "I want nothing more than this child." His eyes were filled with remorse. In those 3 months, he wrote many letters to our unborn son, a father's outpouring of love. I watched his every move with cold detachment. The day before my labor began, he celebrated my birthday with me. He tested the waters. "Seraphina, if I were gone one day, would you be sad?" I replied simply, "I would raise our child. I would not be sad." That night, he held me gently from behind. "Seraphina," he whispered, "in the end, I am the one who has wronged you." I feigned sleep, my heart soaring. I was finally kicking them out of my life. The next day, my water broke. Midwives and servants rushed in and out. Matron Iris and Lily stayed by my side, encouraging me. My mother and sisters waited outside. Isabel's hall was burning. From my window, I could see the flames leaping high into the sky. My name, Seraphina, is a name of fire. When I was born, a fortune teller told my father that my destiny lacked fire. My name was chosen to balance that. And now a fire burned, just like the fire in my name. When this fire was extinguished, my life would begin anew. My life would no longer lack fire. With that thought, I screamed and pushed. The cry of a newborn baby filled the hall. When I awoke, the emperor had already found a letter in the prince's study. They had planned to fake their deaths and escape the palace. The emperor was about to order a pursuit, but then his gaze fell on the crying infant in my arms. He held the letter to a candle, and it burned to ash. "Let it be proclaimed," he ordered. that the crown Prince Arthur and the consort Isabel have perished in a fire. The nation will observe a period of mourning. The palace was draped in white. My son was named the crown grandson. And just like that, I no longer had to compete with any woman. My hands were free of blood. They had cleanly and willingly placed my child and me on the highest pinnacle of the dynasty. As the prince's coffin was carried out of the city, I walked behind it, playing the part of a grieving widow for all the world to see. Perhaps Arthur and Isabel were somewhere in the crowd watching me. I had given him completely to her, and I had received what I wanted most: supreme power and wealth. When my son, Leo, was 6, the emperor passed away. Leo ascended the throne. My aunt became the Grand Empress Dowager, and I became the Empress Dowager of the Empire. I ruled from behind a screen, guiding Leo and securing his hold on the throne. I was only 22 years old. House Valerius reached new heights of glory, and its daughters were no longer sacrificed for political alliances. When Leo was 13, a capable and courageous young emperor, I formally handed power over to him. One day, Matron Iris came to me. "Empress Dowager, Arthur is in the capital. He wishes to see you." I fiddled with my jeweled nail guards. A man who has been dead for years. Why would I see him? "If you do not, he says he will find a way to see His Majesty." That night, I took a carriage to a villa outside the city. After all these years, Arthur was gaunt and haggard. Isabel was not with him. When he saw me, he tried to embrace me. I recoiled. "What do you want?" He was flustered. "I am sorry. I faked my death back then. I wanted a free life with Isabel." I nodded. "I know, the late emperor found the letter you left. I also know you went south. You traveled the world." He froze. "How could you?" I looked at him coldly. "Because I was the one who made Isabel make you pity her, who made you so desperate to take her from the cage of the palace. Why, Arthur, you knew your duty as crown prince, but you chose to abandon it for a woman. My family had done no wrong, yet you scorned us from the start. I simply pushed you completely into the arms of the woman you loved. I fulfilled your wishes, and my own." Arthur gave a bitter laugh. "Seraphina, I know I wronged you. Why must you speak such daggers?" "These are not daggers, Arthur. This is the truth." He grasped my hand. "Leo is on the throne. I have grown tired of life outside the palace. Can we not be a family again? Have Gideon and Isabel finally found their happiness together?" He stared. Gideon is a warrior," I continued. "He and Isabel were childhood sweethearts. A bond like that is not easily broken. You were a prince, raised in luxury, who had never lifted a finger in his life. No matter how great your love, once you left the palace, you had to fend for yourselves. You could not provide the stability that Gideon could." His voice broke. Why did you plan all this? My entire scheme was built upon the foundation of your sincerity. You walked into my trap willingly." Matron Iris brought forward a cup of wine. "Arthur, if you had stayed away from the capital, I would not have sought to harm you. But now Leo's rule is stable. I cannot and will not allow him to be put at risk. Your coffin is in the Imperial Mausoleum. If you die tonight, I will ensure you are laid to rest where you belong." His eyes were red. "Did you never have any feelings for me?" I laughed as if I had heard a joke. "On our wedding night, whatever faint affection I might have had was extinguished. The moon was so bright that night, so bright I could only see the two of you, a perfect couple. I knew my place then. If one does not fight for oneself, heaven and earth will conspire for one's destruction. You have no right to ask me that, Arthur." Matron Iris pushed the cup toward him. He drank it in one gulp, his eyes flashing with regret and tears. "I could have been on the throne. It should have been me." I placed a finger on his lips. "Hush, you were the one who severed your own path." The drug took hold, and he passed out. I had him taken to one of my private estates. The wine contained a powder that erases memory. When he woke, he would be a simple farmer with no memory of his past. There was no antidote. I had turned him from a dragon of the palace into a common swallow that could never fly home again. The carriage rocked gently. The moon was still bright as the wagon carrying him headed west. We would never meet again. And I would remain the proud Empress Dowager, my hands unstained, enjoying my infinite glory. A few days later, Lily returned from her journey. "Empress Dowager," she reported, "I have informed Gideon and Isabel that Arthur died of a broken heart just outside the capital. I was trimming a flower arrangement with a pair of shears. If they are clever, they will understand that Arthur's story must remain a secret. If they ever betray that trust, I will ensure they have no place to be buried." I received regular reports from the estate. Arthur woke with no memory. He became an ordinary farmer, married a cook, and lived a peaceful life. He would never know that he was once the proud crown prince of the Eastern Palace, that he once had the chance to rule an empire and receive the adoration of millions. And to prevent any future complications, he would never have another child. Under my tutelage, Leo became a decisive and resolute ruler. He played the court like a master, yet his own hands never shed a drop of blood. The world hailed Emperor Leo as a benevolent and wise sovereign. No one knew of the schemes he used to achieve his goals. To preserve the prosperity of House Valerius, my father retired to the countryside, and my brother and third sister served in the military, proving their loyalty. We knew that every emperor despises the overreach of his consort's family. House Valerius never overstepped, and for that, Leo held us in high esteem. I had not wanted another daughter of my house to enter the palace, but Leo and my niece, Celeste, had grown up together and fallen deeply in love. After Leo's wedding, other women from noble houses began to enter the palace. My youth was gone, but I never regretted my choices. I sat on my throne in the palace of benevolent tranquility and watched the vibrant young women arrive. Generation after generation. Each had her own schemes, her own family to support. They all fought for a place in the emperor's favor. But once a woman sees herself as a plaything, she loses her color. Celeste was very wise. "Aunt," she once told me, "I know what I must do and what I must not." I was reminded of my own aunt, so many years ago. "Celeste," I said, "you know I did not want another Valerius daughter in the palace." She gave me a sly smile. "Aunt, from now on, every emperor of this dynasty will have the blood of House Valerius in his veins." I smiled. She was right. Arthur had not been my aunt's son. He had feared and resented my family. Celeste had seen the truth that others had missed. "You are so clever," I said. "I have no more worries." Epilogue: when I was old, Leo took me and his consorts on a tour of the South. Matron Iris had long passed away. Lily was now my senior attendant. One evening, Lily and I were watching the sunset by a river. I saw a familiar figure in the distance. She hesitated, then walked toward me. My guards moved to block her, but I waved them away. Her steps were slow and unsteady. The beauty of her youth was gone. It was Isabel. She sat beside me. "Gideon has passed away." I nodded. "I know." A self-deprecating smile touched her lips. "All these years, you never tried to eliminate us." "Why?" I met her eyes. "Because you were no threat to me. I never saw you as an enemy. You were merely a stepping stone." She was stunned. "It was all your scheme. You got your love, and I got everything I wanted. Isabel, the reason I didn't have you killed was because I had reports on your life every single day." When Leo came to fetch me, she stared at him, dazed. He looked so much like his father. I patted her hand. A heart can change in an instant. In the palace, you thought he was your savior. But outside, he was a pampered prince who knew nothing of the real world. You had to support you both. You found that he had changed, but the truth is, you never loved him. You loved the life he could provide. Her lips trembled. I smiled faintly. As for Gideon, he could do everything. He could give you a stable life. In the wilderness, he became your new hero. Isabel, I gave you your love. But you still lost. You chose to be a clinging vine, waiting to be rescued. When your hero lost his power and status, he was a hero no longer. Your love, how cheap it was. Leo approached. "Mother, It is time to go. I walked away without looking back. There was no need to. Mother, Leo asked. An old acquaintance. Nothing more. Celeste and I have prepared some local delicacies for you tonight. I smiled and nodded. Good. In the carriage, Lily asked. Empress Dowager, are you not afraid she will speak of the past? I shook my head. My hands are free of blood. Why should I fear her words? The road ahead was long, but I had no regrets. A heart can change in an instant, but I would forever be the Empress Dowager of this dynasty, and every emperor who came after would carry the blood of my house.